In the heart of Texas, under the relentless sun that bakes the ground cracked by a prolonged drought, farmer Earl Johnson parks his dusty pickup truck in front of the Fort Worth auction house. His worn boots hit the hot asphalt as he adjusts the leather hat he inherited from his father. The air heavy with dust and the distant lowing of cattle echo through the yard, crowded with trucks and trailers. Earl walks among the buyers, many wearing expensive suits and shiny watches, a stark contrast to his simple work clothes. The debt that nearly broke him weighs on his shoulders, but he maintains an upright posture. It's time to stake everything on one last chance to reclaim his reputation in the rural community he's known since childhood. Inside the air-conditioned hall, Earl finds a seat in the back rows, observing the movements of experienced dealers. The auctioneer begins with his characteristic rhythmic voice, and the first lots start to be hotly contested. When Earl subtly raises his arm to make his first modest bid, an awkward silence falls over the room. Wayne Harlow, a prosperous farmer known for his arrogance, stands up from the front row and loudly declares, "Gonna pay with cow's milk, Earl?" The hall erupts in cruel laughter that echoes off the walls, and dozens of mocking glances turn towards the humiliated man. Earl feels his face burn with shame as he clenches his fists, fighting the urge to confront the provocateur in plain sight of everyone. The humiliation intensifies as other buyers begin to whisper and point, making Earl the center of attention for all the wrong reasons. Wayne continues to make malicious jokes about Earl's difficult financial situation, while the auctioneer tries to maintain focus on the business. The air conditioning struggles against the heat generated by the growing tension in the room. Earl watches every move of the suited buyers who bid on cattle as if they were casino chips in Las Vegas. Sweat drips down his forehead, not just from the heat but from the pressure of being there, surrounded by people who see him as a failure. Each lot sold represents power, prestige, and a future, elements that seem increasingly distant from his current reality of hardship. The conflict reaches its critical point when the auctioneer announces the night's most valuable lot, 200 head of premium Angus cattle. Wayne positions himself confidently, certain that no other buyer would have the courage or resources to challenge him. The atmosphere becomes charged with expectation, with low murmurs running through the rows of chairs. Earl feels his heart race as he mentally calculates the risks of his next move. He knows he is about to bet everything he owns and everything he doesn't yet own, jeopardizing not only his future, but also the family legacy he has carried for generations. The decision he makes in the next few seconds will determine whether he leaves as a hero or as a man completely ruined, with no turning back. When the first bid is announced, Earl surprises everyone by slowly standing up and declaring a value that instantly silences the entire hall. Conversations cease, phones are put away, and even the auctioneer hesitates for a moment before repeating the number. Wayne counters with an even higher bid, but Earl doesn't back down. The dispute transforms into a battle of nerves between two men who represent completely different worlds. Each strike of the auctioneer's gavel echoes like thunder amidst the tense silence, while the dust stirred by the nervous movements of those present rises like battle smoke. A dilemma explodes in Earl's mind. To retreat now would mean forever accepting the role of a loser, but to advance could mean the total ruin of everything his ancestors fought for over decades. With a final bid that represents every penny he possesses, and far more than he should risk, Earl nails the number that completely changes the course of the night. The auctioneer's gavel comes down with force, sealing the most surprising deal that Hall has ever witnessed. The silence that follows is deafening, broken only by the distant lowing of cattle in the outside yard. Earl takes a deep breath, knowing he has just bought not only a herd, but also the respect of an entire community. Outside, the Texas night brings the familiar aroma of barbecue and roasted corn from the street vendors' stalls, reminding him that hard work begins anew with the sunrise. As the local church bells chime in the distance, a certainty echoes in his heart. No one will dare question his ability or determination again. The Texas dawn awakens Earl with the persistent crowing of roosters and the distant roar of diesel engines warming up in neighboring yards. He rises from his creaky bed, feeling the weight of the consequences of his audacious decision the night before. Through the misty window of his simple room, he observes the first rays of sun illuminating the dry fields that stretch to the horizon. His wife Martha watches him, worried, as she prepares strong coffee in the small kitchen, knowing that her husband gambled everything on a risky play. The phone rings incessantly from 5 in the morning, with curious neighbors and local reporters wanting details about the purchase that surprised the entire region. Earl pulls on his work boots with slow movements, mentally preparing to face the gigantic responsibilities he has taken on. At Wayne Harlow's property, Earl arrives accompanied by 2 experienced hands to collect the herd that now belongs to him. The morning air carries the characteristic smell of wet hay and manure, while hundreds of cattle graze peacefully, oblivious to the change of ownership. Wayne greets him with a forced smile and a cold handshake, clearly bothered by the unexpected turn of events. Documents are signed in the shade of a century-old oak tree, with witnesses observing every move in respectful silence. Earl carefully examines each animal, checking their health and the overall condition of the herd that will represent his near future. The transaction, which should have been routine, takes on the air of a solemn ceremony, as if all present understood the historical magnitude of that moment. The cattle drive proves to be a complex operation that takes up the entire morning and part of the afternoon. Earl coordinates a fleet of trucks and trailers, borrowed from supportive neighbors who, impressed by his courage, offered free help. The midday heat makes the work even harder, with temperatures exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the scarce shade of the eucalyptus trees planted along the property lines. Each animal is carefully guided into the vehicles in a coordinated dance between men, horses, and trained sheepdogs. Martha arrives at the site bringing jugs of ice water and sandwiches for the volunteer workers, demonstrating the unity of the rural community in decisive moments. The last steer boards the trailer ramp as the sun begins its descent in the orange sky of late afternoon, marking the end of an exhausting but victorious journey. On Earl's property, the arrival of the herd completely transforms the familiar landscape. The pastures, once empty and melancholic, come alive with the constant movement of animals adapting to their new territory. Curious neighbors gather at the fence lines to witness the unprecedented spectacle, whispering admiring comments about the sudden transformation of the farm. Earl walks among the animals with confident strides, checking the watering troughs and mentally planning the necessary improvements to the existing infrastructure. The sound of mooing echoes through the surrounding valleys, announcing to the entire region that something significant has changed in those arid lands. Stars begin to appear in the clear sky as Earl finally allows himself a moment of contemplation, watching his property gain new life after years of hardship and silent humiliations. The following days bring practical challenges that test every fiber of Earl's determination. Expenses for feed, veterinary medicine, and fence maintenance consume financial resources at an alarming rate, forcing him to renegotiate terms with local suppliers. Martha takes over the farm's accounting, organizing detailed spreadsheets on a makeshift table on the main house's wooden porch. The couple works late into the night, planning sales strategies and calculating necessary profit margins to honor the commitments they've made. Phone calls from potential buyers begin to arrive, attracted by the exceptional quality of the cattle now grazing in Earl's fields. The local community watches with increasing interest the unfolding of the risky gamble, divided between skeptics who predict failure and optimists who root for the success of the man who dared to defy adverse circumstances. 3 months after the memorable auction, Earl receives a visit from a large meat packer, interested in acquiring half the herd for a price that exceeds his most optimistic expectations. At the kitchen table where Martha serves fresh coffee to the negotiators, contracts are signed under the proud gaze of his wife, who never doubted her husband's capabilities. The upfront payment allows him to pay off all outstanding debts and still invest in structural improvements that will transform the property into a regional benchmark. Wayne Harlow, upon learning of his former rival's financial success, seeks out Earl for a private conversation, offering sincere apologies for the unnecessary public humiliation. The farmer who was once ridiculed is now sought out by young agriculturalists seeking advice and guidance. Earl smiles discreetly, remembering that the true victory was not just in the money, but in the recovery of dignity and the respect earned through perseverance and courage. Prosperity brings new challenges that Earl never imagined facing. His property, once modest and nearly abandoned, now attracts daily visitors interested in seeing the operation that has become a local legend. Reporters from regional newspapers arrive to document the transformation, photographing the green pastures, where before there was only dry land and lost hope. Earl hires 3 permanent ranch hands to assist with the remaining cattle, offering fair wages and decent working conditions. Martha opens a small shop at the farm's entrance, selling homemade products and local crafts to tourists who stop to learn about the courageous farmer's story. The phone rings constantly with partnership proposals, speaking invitations, and purchase offers arriving from distant states, transforming the couple's simple life into a constant flurry of opportunities. During an agricultural fair in Dallas, Earl is invited as a keynote speaker to talk about risk management and rural entrepreneurship. The auditorium, packed with over 500 rural producers, receives him with enthusiastic applause, a reception completely different from the humiliation suffered at the auction months ago. Wearing his best suit and tie, Earl shares his experiences on stage, speaking about the importance of determination and courage to overcome financial adversities. Young farmers approach him after the presentation, asking for autographs and advice on how to diversify investments in modern agriculture. Martha, proud in the front row, captures every moment with her digital camera, documenting her husband's extraordinary journey. The lecture is broadcast live on local radio, bringing the inspiring story to thousands of listeners. Financial success allows Earl to fulfill an old dream, completely modernize his property with cutting-edge technology. He installs automated irrigation systems that transform the dry fields into lush pastures, contrasting with neighboring properties still dependent on uncertain rainfall. New electric fences replace old rotten wooden structures, creating efficient divisions for pasture rotation and cattle health management. Martha oversees the renovation of the main house, expanding the kitchen and creating a modern office to manage the family's growing businesses. Investment in genetic improvement of the herd attracts the attention of renowned breeders, who begin to visit the property in search of exceptionally high-quality breeding stock. The physical transformation of the farm symbolizes the personal metamorphosis of a man who refused to accept defeat as an inevitable destiny. The local community organizes a benefit barbecue in honor of Earl, recognizing his contribution to the region's economic development. Hundreds of people gather at the community center, decorated with flags and posters celebrating the story of triumph that inspired the entire neighborhood. The mayor presents a commemorative plaque declaring Earl an exemplary citizen, while local schoolchildren perform a play dramatizing the events of the fateful auction. Wayne Harlow surprises everyone by taking the makeshift stage, offering public apologies for past humiliations and congratulating Earl on his admirable determination. The celebration extends into the night, with live country music and dancing under the bright stars of the Texas sky. Earl, emotional, gives a speech, thanking the community's support and promising to continue investing in regional development through job creation and social projects. 1 year after the auction that changed his life, Earl receives an unexpected proposal from a national television network to document his routine in a series about successful rural entrepreneurs. Cameras follow his daily life, from waking before dawn to late-night strategic planning meetings with specialized consultants. Martha participates in the filming, showing how she manages the financial and social aspects of the constantly expanding family businesses. The program highlights the importance of family farming in the national economy, using Earl's story as an example of determination and entrepreneurial vision. Young people from all over the country send letters inspired by the Texas farmer's journey, asking for advice on how to start their own ventures in modern agribusiness. The national exposure transforms Earl into a reference in the sector, solidifying his reputation far beyond state borders. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Earl walks alone through the pastures where everything began, reflecting on the extraordinary journey that brought him there. The same sun that once relentlessly scorched the dry land now gently illuminates green fields full of healthy and prosperous cattle. He stops near the oak tree where he used to rest during the toughest times, remembering the nights he doubted if he could save the family property. Martha joins him, bringing cold lemonade, and the knowing smile of someone who shared every moment of struggle and victory. Together they watch the sunset painting the sky orange and red, while the distant lowing of cattle cradles the peace won with so much sacrifice. Earl smiles, knowing that his story proves that courage and determination can transform humiliation into triumph, failure into success, and impossible dreams into tangible reality. 2 years after the auction that changed everything, Earl faces a new challenge when a severe drought grips Texas for consecutive months. Regional reservoirs reach critical levels, and many neighboring farmers begin selling their herds for rock-bottom prices, desperate to avoid greater losses. Earl watches his pastures gradually yellow, but maintains the calm acquired through past experiences of adversity. Martha suggests implementing a rainwater harvesting system she had researched in specialized sustainable agriculture magazines. The couple invest their savings in drip irrigation technology and drilling deeper artesian wells. Skeptical neighbors comment that Earl is repeating the mistake of betting too high, but he remains confident in his decisions, remembering that great risks can yield great rewards when calculated with wisdom and accumulated experience. During the worst phase of the drought, Earl makes a controversial decision that divides opinions in the local community. He offers his irrigated pastures to struggling neighbors, charging only operational costs with no significant profit margin. Many proud farmers initially reject the help, but necessity prevails as their animals begin to wither in the parched fields. Wayne Harlow, ironically, becomes one of the first to accept the aid, bringing 50 head of cattle to Earl's green pastures. The supportive decision strengthens community bonds and transforms Earl into a respected figure, not only for his financial success, but for his generosity and long-term vision. Martha documents each agreement in organized notebooks, creating a network of cooperation that benefits the entire region during the critical period. The drought that could have been devastating becomes an opportunity to demonstrate community leadership. The cooperation strategy yields unexpected fruits when rain finally returns to Texas after 8 months of severe drought. The farmers who accepted Earl's help organized to reciprocate the favor, offering free labor for improvements on his property. A community effort builds a new shed for feed and equipment storage, while another group installs additional fences for pasture expansion. Martha coordinates a system of product exchange among families, creating a more integrated local economy resilient to future crises. The collective work strengthens friendships that had been strained by years of unfair competition and mutual envy. Earl realizes that his greatest achievement was not money or recognition, but the ability to transform a divided community into a network of mutual support. The lesson learned during the drought becomes a model replicated in other rural regions of the state. National recognition arrives when Earl is invited to participate in a television program about innovation in agribusiness, broadcast nationwide during prime time. In the studio in Austin, he shares his experiences with other rural entrepreneurs, emphasizing the importance of solidarity and cooperation to overcome economic and climatic crises. Martha watches the recording from the audience, proud to see her husband simply and wisely explain the principles that guided his journey of transformation. The program generates thousands of positive comments on social media, with farmers from other states asking for guidance on implementing similar projects. Agricultural universities invite Earl to teach courses on sustainable management and rural cooperativism, expanding his influence far beyond the Texas borders. The television appearance solidifies his reputation as a visionary leader in the agricultural sector, opening doors for consultancies and strategic partnerships with large companies in the field. Martha surprises Earl by announcing she is pregnant at 42, after 15 years of trying to have children unsuccessfully. The news arrives on a sunny spring morning as they drink coffee on the renovated porch, watching the calves play in the green pastures. Earl embraces his wife with tears in his eyes, understanding that life was completing a perfect cycle of renewal and hope. The couple decides to build a playground in the farm's backyard, imagining their future son or daughter growing up amidst nature and learning the values of honest work from an early age. Neighbors organize a community baby shower, demonstrating the affection and respect the family has earned over years of struggle and triumph. Martha documents every moment of the pregnancy in an illustrated diary, creating precious memories to share with the child who will represent the continuity of the family's story of determination and success. On a golden autumn afternoon, Earl holds his newborn son in his arms, walking through the same fields where he faced the most difficult moments of his life. The baby sleeps peacefully as his father whispers promises of a prosperous future full of opportunities. Martha watches them from the kitchen window, smiling as she sees 3 generations of the family symbolically reunited on that land that was almost lost. The boy will bear his grandfather's name, honoring the family tradition of hard work and moral integrity that built the current legacy. Earl looks at the horizon where the sun majestically sets, painting the sky with vibrant colors that reflect the beauty of life won with perseverance. The story that began with humiliation at a cattle auction transforms into a saga of success, solidarity, and renewal that will inspire future generations. The cycle is complete, but the journey continues with new hopes and endless possibilities.